Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of SimplyPodLogical, a Simply Logical podcast.
Hello.
Christine, how are you feeling today?
Full of myself.
All right, yes. Today we are going to be taking a narcissist personality test. Quiz from Open Psychometrics or something like that.
Yes, because you love quizzes.
I'm
making him do this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's very narcissistic of you. Yeah. No, okay. But I guess what got us here, Christine has been watching a lot of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard civil case trial.
As of the time of recording this, I'm on day 9. I'm watching 100% of the live trial footage. It's like 8 hours a day. So I'm not caught up because I was away last week. That's but I don't want to move ahead. I have to watch from like where I left off.
It's pretty strange we're talking about this like it's like episodes you're catching up on.
So like absolutely, as a reminder to everyone, including ourselves, these are two real people dealing with very serious issues. Like this is a legal issue in civil court. And it's kind of wild that it's public. I mean, I gather that was a decision that they did make. But just always remembering that these are two different people. So while I see tons of jokes on TikTok making fun of Amber or even like Johnny laughing on trial, like during the trial, it's just like we're treating it like entertainment, I think, in some ways because we see them as entertainers. Yeah. Which is something that I think we do anyways about any celebrity who's maybe going through something that's more personal because we're so used to seeing them in an entertainment light. It's hard to separate that. So just a friendly reminder that this is their personal lives that we are seeing
including
and consuming.
Allegations of like intimate partner violence and spousal abuse. And like,
yeah,
it is a little strange to see it repackaged in like short clips on TikTok with like goofy music for laughs. Yeah, I find the whole thing pretty bizarre. But anyway, for someone who has no context coming into this, I think most people are somewhat aware of what's going on. But since you've been following it so closely, who is suing who and why?
So Johnny Depp, star of Pirates of the Caribbean, is suing Amber Heard for defamation for $50 million.
And this is because they were married for a year.
Well, it has nothing to do with they were married.
That's just content. He's suing her because they were married.
This isn't about this isn't a divorce settlement. I saw a lot of people like being confused about like, oh, she's after his money for divorce. No, they're already divorced. There was already a divorce settlement. This is a civil trial. And while, hey, I'm not a legal expert, we are not, especially in this domain here. Basically, she wrote an op-ed in, I think it was 2016, that accused him without naming him of domestic physical abuse. As a result, his argument put forth by his lawyers is that he suffered in the entertainment industry and was dropped from roles. And that it wasn't true, that the words she wrote, which was, even though it didn't name him, everyone assumed it to be him, was defamation, meaning it was a lie. That's what his team is alleging. And then in response to his $50 million defamation suit, she is countersuing for $100 million, which from my basic understanding is just like kind of the thing you do to be like, no, you're lying. I'm going to sue for double. It's just like not that uncommon to do that in response. So yeah, they are on trial. It's publicly filmed. There's 8 hours of footage a day. It's at like day 14, 15, 16 probably by now. And anyone in the world can watch it on YouTube. Which is wild.
And they had to choose for it to be publicly consumable, right?
Right. I'm not as familiar with like disclosure and court surveillance rules in America, but from my understanding, there's way more cameras in America than in Canadian courts, first of all, but this is a civil trial, which means it absolutely did not have to be like for the public interest. Like this isn't a criminal trial where sometimes it just is in that state. It's
there's just like a principle of justice that in criminal cases, like it should be open to the public.
But this is civil. So they both had to decide to make it public and have it filmed. So my understanding from like watching legal commentators on this, not my own personal understanding, but just from like hearing other people say it, is that they both elected to do this because a large part of what they're each trying to gain out of this is to win in the court of public opinion. They're both actors and celebrities who want to be able to regain that fan base and support so they can continue to move forward in their careers. I'm not saying that's like the only reason. Obviously, Johnny's arguing he just wants the truth out there. And Amber is arguing she's a victim of domestic abuse and wants to continue to convey that message.
Got it. Okay. And you've been watching the trial. You've been watching a lot of it, not just in little bits. You've been watching it for hours. Like,
I know people are like, why? Why do you do this?
Yeah. Are you just interested in just seeing the court process play out? It is. I feel like a lot of people who might be tuning into this are seeing the way trials are actually conducted in a way that is like, hey, this isn't like Law and Order or insert goofy legal TV show I watch for an hour sometimes on weekdays.
Yeah. Lawyers make mistakes. Sometimes people laugh. Sometimes there's a fumble. Sometimes a witness gets dismissed. Sometimes testimony is really boring.
Yeah.
And unless you're consuming this on TikTok, where you're only getting like the highlight clips that were basically made into memes, if you watch the full trial, that's where I think it's a really good learning opportunity, honestly, to learn about how these things go down. What is an objection? What does sustained mean? How many witnesses can you have? Like, what kinds of questions can and can't be asked? When do you need to rephrase? When is something stricken from the record? When do the counsels have to approach the bench and speak privately? There's so many things that I find interesting about the trial process. So personally, just from an educational perspective, I like that this is available. And not just because they're celebrities. Obviously, that makes it more salacious, interesting. And yes, because you know these people or like feel like you know these people. But I just like the subject matter. I find defamation really interesting in a world of social media where something you say about someone can absolutely spread and have a lot of consequence. So I've been just watching the trial from start to finish because I prefer to consume it myself firsthand to fully understand my position on it rather than just watching highlights. Now, that being said, I'm not spending 8 hours a day staring at a screen doing nothing else because then people are like, Cristine, how are you doing anything else? How are you filming this podcast? I do two things at once all the time. So anytime I'm watching, editing videos in the background, I also have the trial on. So I'm doing both at the same time.
Yeah. One thing that sticks out to me as interesting too is, so I've watched a little bit, not as religiously as you, but that is a jury trial. I think a lot of people are seeing for the first time the sort of strategy and legal maneuvering of how to appeal to a jury specifically. That would be very different, I think, if they were just dealing with a judge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the way some witnesses are doing a better job than others of breaking things down, actually looking at the jury, the way people are dressing strategically to appeal to a jury is like a big part of this. Like,
it's almost like people are learning for the first time that what you wear in court might impact what the jury's verdict is. And I just find that so interesting because one of my fave profs, actually, you guys met her, SimplyPodLogical. She's an expert
That's her real name.
in jury decision making, and the psychology of jury decision making is her major field of study. And I took one of her like 4th or 5th year level classes just because I found it really interesting. And there's so much psych research out there on how your appearance, what you wear, what you dress, how you speak, how you act can absolutely 100% impact how a jury comes to the conclusion. It's not just about fact finding. While we wish that we lived in a world where that is the case, that's just not true because we all have subconscious biases. So it's important. It's an important field of study that I think like people didn't realize. And I see a lot of reaction from like TikTok comments or comments on some of the legal commentators who are talking about what they're wearing and how that's important. The average people seem to tend to react like, why does it matter what they're wearing? It shouldn't matter. The jury should just, judge it. And like, we all wish that we could make decisions that way, but that's just not true. So there's absolutely strategy and focus groups going into Amber Heard's legal team telling her, suggesting what you should wear, how you should do your hair, how much makeup you should wear.
I took a class with SimplyPodLogical too, right? And it really speaks to like the sort of unconscious biases people have. I'm not sure if you did the same class I did, but like we literally at one point, she brought in this this program. So on a computer, we're looking at like, you're supposed to make these snap judgments like instantly. They're going to flash two things on a screen and you just have to say which one of these two things is bad or something.
Bad or good, yeah.
And the way like you don't even have time to think about it. You're just supposed to pick it. And it really sort of revealed a lot of the snap judgments people make without thinking about it when like the appearance of two people is differently or these things fall along gender lines, race, all these sorts of things, right, are hugely important. That's interesting. Like you had a theory about like Amber Heard writing on her note. Do you want to tell people that?
So I don't think like you really pick up on this if you watch just the TikTok stuff. They've been going through Johnny Depp's witnesses so far. So it's all been people who've been testifying on like in support of him. And then there's cross-examination where they're, you know, her lawyers are trying to break it down somehow. But I think this is like, hey, I'm not a psychologist or a legal expert, but I am just an observer. And I notice that whenever someone is saying something that's pretty damning, she doesn't want to show that. She doesn't want to reflect that emotion. Obviously, the jury's watching you, so is the entire world. So you have to try to, you know, maintain your composure. To me, it looks like she's almost using writing notes, whether or not they're just scribbles or drawings or just writing the same word over and over as a coping mechanism to not display emotion. Because she'll have like a face and then she'll stop the second she starts writing. And it's almost like she just keeps writing, and she's picking up a Post-it note and then putting it down and writing. And I just find that over so many hours, and it's increasing with every day I watch how much she's writing. And I really wonder, like, what is she writing?
Yeah, so this is pure speculation on our part. But it's just an interesting nugget of, like, maybe her legal team coached her that instead of showing that you are upset about something someone is testifying, just channel that into, like, making notes. It looks like you're like, oh, they're saying that? Well, like, I've got something to say in rebuttal to that. Or maybe it's just purely a way of just, like, I think it's making your face not look a certain way.
And this isn't a bad thing. We're not saying, like, how dare she write scribbles? Like, hey, hey, I would be doing the same thing, probably. It actually makes a lot of sense to resort to that if you feel like you're going to have an emotional reactive expression on your face.
Yeah. So the trial is still ongoing. I think we need to be careful because clearly internet is team Johnny Depp right now. Like, overwhelmingly.
And I don't think it's reasonable to project an opinion right now. Because if you are, let's pretend we're all on the jury. Okay, we're all watching the same trial as them. We're not done, the witnesses. We're not done. So a jury cannot, at this point, make a decision. So neither can we.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine what we could hear that would completely reverse some of the damage that has been done to her case.
But you have to.
It's probably more likely that they just both come out of this looking more terrible. Like right now, a lot of things have come out that make her look terrible. I imagine once her and her legal team start calling witnesses, that it's going to do the reverse. And just the whole thing just seems really shitty. I do want to, I think maybe the way of tying this to the personality test we were maybe going to take today is that I haven't watched nearly as much as you, but I was really fascinated by the testimony of, so Johnny Depp's legal team called a witness.
Dr. Shannon Curry.
Yeah, so she's a clinical psychologist. Is that correct?
A licensed psychologist.
Okay. And so, I guess she did an evaluation of Amber Heard and determined that she had 2 psychological disorders.
Yeah. Borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder, according to her assessment of Amber Heard over the course of 2 days.
Yeah. And as people for anyone who maybe took a couple undergrad courses in psych or is just somewhat interested in that topic, it was really interesting to see this sort of real world application of her describing how those tests were done, what it's based on, like what you can make sense of those results. And then sort of the cross-examination from the Heard legal team trying to poke holes at it as more of like the sort of legal strategy of undermining an expert witness. That whole exchange of that day of the trial was really interesting.
Yeah, especially for us, I think, because like we both took psych and law in some form in undergrad. So I find this stuff very interesting. And while I'm not, anywhere near the level of knowledge as a clinical psychologist, I remember back in school, even in corrections in some of my experience, looking at a lot of actuarial tools. So actuarial tools are questions and scales that are used to administer to a population to determine whether or not they have, it could be a clinical disorder, or it just could be like, are you ready to come out of prison, for example, or like there's intake assessments for prison. So that's in some correctional background where I have that knowledge. But as far as like psychology goes, we did learn about some of these scales.
And we also learned, I think, from having a bit of a background in sociology to sort of think of them critically as well, and not just accept them as like tools of truth telling.
Right, because sociologists would argue actuarial tools are not the end all be all of human behavior because they reduce humans to a number and they don't permit the same amount of context as like a sociological, more environmental understanding of human behavior can be. So I've always, I think at the end of my academic career, kind of fallen somewhere in the middle because, well, we landed ultimately at Statistics Canada, which is highly quantitative, obviously. So they love scales and tools and measurement and data. Most of my academic research background, and yours too, is in sociology, which is places more value, generally speaking, on qualitative. So I've always personally been a fan of like a mixed methods approach to understanding and explaining why someone is how they are. With that said, we both found fascinating this like actuarial tool assessment of human behavior. And while we're not going to figure out whether we have the same reported diagnoses as Amber Heard.
That'd be a little insensitive.
Yeah, also that. We did think, well, I wonder if there's anything else that we could quiz ourselves on that is available on the internet. So for entertainment purposes only, not done by a licensed clinical professional. But you know how YouTubers are always supposedly full of themselves? How do we figure out if that's true of us?
Yeah. Shane Dawson used to be on this case, right? All YouTubers are narcissists.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the basis of the Jake Paul series?
So today we're going to find out.
Will it watermarble?
Is SimplyPodLogical a narcissist?
I mean, I won't lie. I hate these tests.
I know.
I don't put much value in them. I don't even mean just in terms of them being entertaining on the podcast. But yeah, my inclination is to always like discount these tools that like click a button of which statement applies more to you as if that's telling you something deeply meaningful about your identity.
I totally agree with you. I don't think that I, as a person, like leave finishing one of these tests and think that is my definition, therefore, and I will continue in life thinking only of how this quiz has classified me. I never do that. I really just see it as like, oh, that's interesting, and then I move on. So I hope that that's how people, you know, interpret quizzes that they do in their own lives too, unless it's at the hands of a clinical psychologist, which this is absolutely not. So what is this, Ben? What are we looking at?
So we're looking at an interactive version of the Narcissistic Personality Inventory. So narcissism is a personality trait generally conceived of as excessive self-love. In Greek mythology, Narcissus was a man who fell in love with his reflection in a pool of water. The NPI was developed by Raskin and Hall, 1979, for the measurement of narcissism as a personality trait in social psychology research. It's based on the definition of narcissistic personality disorder found in the DSM version 3. It is not a diagnostic tool for narcissistic personality disorder and instead measures subclinical or normal expressions of narcissism. So even someone who gets the highest possible score here doesn't necessarily mean you have a disorder. The test consists of 40 pairs of statements. For each pair, you should select one that you feel best reflects your personality. It should only take 5 to 10 minutes to complete for most people. So for Simply, it will take probably longer than that.
Ben!
Participation, your use of this assessment must be strictly for educational purposes, not to be taken as psychological advice of any kind. This is their disclaimer.
Important.
If you want to look at this up yourself, it's on openpsychometrics.org.
I'll just note that this is old. The source is from 1988, which was the year we were born, and they're citing the DSM-3. Which is like 15. I can't remember. We're on the 5 now. Yeah.
Yeah. Another fun sociological lens to criticize psychology is to look at old versions of diagnostic manuals.
Yeah, I did that in my thesis.
Yeah, there are some pretty crazy examples of things that, you know, used to be considered psychological disorders.
Not even used to be. Like, there's some current ones that you could easily pick apart, but let's say that for
You don't want to get into that at all?
No.
There's some ones that are clearly sexist, eh? Anyway, let's get into it.
Anyway, let's find out if we are not technically clinically narcissists, because this isn't a real test.
So wait, okay, before we even begin, who is going to score? Who's more of a narcissist, you or me?
I think from the outside looking in, I'd have to say me, because I'm the one who put myself on the internet.
Why are you looking from the outside? You're inside.
Yes. I guess just if you remove ourselves, like what would a third party, omniscient party?
What would a random observer assume?
A random observer. Okay. What would a jury say? Who just met us and had
so
no prior knowledge.
By putting yourself on the internet, you think the assumption would be you are more of a narcissist?
Yes.
Do you agree that has to be like some sort of baseline narcissism to think like to even put yourself on the internet in the first place?
I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I think it's probably highly correlated because a lot of people who are famous on the internet probably looked for fame on the internet. That doesn't mean that everyone who's on the internet has always wanted to be famous. There's some people where like it kind of just happened and then they're like, oh, I am now learning how to deal with this. But yeah, I think an outsider would say, oh, well, obviously the girl with 7 million subscribers is a narcissist.
Yeah. And then I do sort of question where that line is between, you know, being narcissistic or just sort of having some self-confidence.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Self-love, I guess. Anyway, Cristine, let's just hop right into it. First statements. You have to identify with both. For each pair of items, choose the one that you most identify with. If you identify with both equally, choose which one you think is more important. So I have a natural talent for influencing people, or I am not good at influencing people.
I fail immediately. Obviously,
Influencer?
I'm an influencer. That's my title, everybody.
What do you think? Am I good at influencing people?
I don't know. This is gonna be harder for you to answer.
If I am, I don't know if it comes from some sort of natural talent.
I think you're very good at speaking, and whenever you've like given presentations at work or conferences, I think people listen to you and they hear what you say. So I would say you do. But this is supposed to be for you, not for me to say.
Okay. I'm so naturally talented.
It's what you think of yourself.
All right, Cristine. Modesty doesn't become me, or I am essentially a modest person.
I'm modest.
You're a modest person. Yeah. I feel like when it comes to things I think I'm good at, I don't have any problem thinking of myself as good at them. So does modesty not become me? The things I know I'm bad at, I know I'm bad at. But when I know I'm good at something, I'm not shy about that.
That's very honest of you.
Is it?
Yeah. No, that's good though.
Everyone hates me. Canceled. Okay, 3. I would do almost anything on a dare. I tend to be a fairly cautious person.
I'm the most cautious. Where is like the number 0 caution?
Yeah. And like I'm not as cautious as you, but I'm not
But you're not
doing anything on a dare.
No.
When people compliment me, I sometimes get embarrassed. I know that I'm good because everybody keeps telling me so.
I get embarrassed.
You do? I've talked about this before, but like, yeah, even when it's something I'm good at and I think I deserve compliments, I still get uncomfortable with people complimenting me.
Yeah.
It must have something to do with my child. Like I didn't really get a lot of
love.
No. That's not what like when I was growing up, like I was held to such a high standard, I think, that like if I got like 99 on a test, it was like, where did that other 1% go? So I think I grew up in a context where like I got a lot more negative reinforcement than positive.
Yeah.
And I think today, like I'm not complaining about that or saying like it was a particularly, it's not like I had a hard childhood or anything like that, but it's more about like, I just feel like I didn't grow up in a context where I was constantly being told like you did a great job necessarily.
That's too bad. But you're unlearning that. You're doing better.
Am I? Yeah. I'm not. That got weirdly more serious than I thought it would. Like I don't think it's actually necessarily a bad thing. Like I think it's also bad to like constantly over validate people for doing a good job if they're not, right?
Yeah.
I think there should be a balance in either direction. Anyway, I sometimes get embarrassed.
Okay.
The thought of ruling the world frightens the hell out of me. If I ruled the world, it would be a better place.
I do not want to rule the world. Nope. It does scare me.
It frightens the hell out of you?
Yeah.
It's not that it frightens me. It just sounds like awful. Like who would want that responsibility? I can usually talk my way out of anything. I try to accept the consequences of my behavior.
I feel like those are two different things. Like that's not necessarily an opposite.
Yeah, I don't really get
right?
this one.
Like you could talk your way out of anything, but also accept the consequences of your behavior.
Okay, which one is most important then?
Accepting the consequences of my behavior.
Sure, I'll agree. I prefer to blend in with the crowd, or I like to be the center of attention. This is pretty easy for
like,
you.
Well, yeah, in real life, I don't even want to be in a crowd. I don't want to be seen. But then, you know, I put myself on the internet like this, and clearly I am structuring myself to be the center of attention right now. As you're listening or watching this, how could I say that I'm trying to blend in when I'm putting myself in front of you, in front of hundreds of thousands?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
You enjoy it. I just like, I feel such a constraint in answering this question because it's almost like a push and pull.
It's
and
almost like you
don't
can't
know what
reduce people to these sort of binary statements.
Yeah, but this is one that's always so hard for me because I am absolutely, and you guys know from me just explaining myself and aversion to crowds, I don't want to be noticed. But then here I am, you know, uploading myself to the internet for the purposes of being noticed and watched. So I absolutely understand that that's an inherent contradiction. And I don't even know how to reconcile it. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know the answer. I guess these things just exist in our own human behavior, though.
I think for you, it's also very context dependent. It's one thing to make yourself the center of attention in a posting yourself on the internet. Whereas like if I picture you in a social setting or a crowd of people in a physical space, I feel like there's such an obvious difference in how you would think about these two statements.
It's like I have two personalities and one of them will answer in a different way.
That's probably a different disorder.
Okay, that's not what I mean, but you know what I mean. I do feel like there's two different iterations of me.
But even in terms of you putting yourself on the internet, I've never thought your motivation was for you to be getting attention. That doesn't mean you don't ever enjoy it in any sort of context, but
yeah, I think I have a different path than most on YouTube. Like I started with no face or voice. And it was weird for me to start putting my face. I did it because I was asked. And when I saw that the results were positive, people wanting more, my views were higher, that's a good thing for your channel. I was like, okay, I guess I got to put my face on more. And that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, I think you embraced, I don't want to make it sound overly strategic, but you embraced this idea of like, this is how you grow.
Yeah.
And you sort of,
I was
almost
getting
as
that
if it was a
advice
game.
too, like people at, I think YouTube, like my early partner manager.
And you also became popular on YouTube at a time where it was on the cusp just before people started doing it, knowing you could make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea you could even make money with the first like 6 months of videos I uploaded. They weren't monetized.
Yeah, you kind of forgot to turn on monetization
well, I didn't know,
for your channel.
because it wasn't like in the news in the way it is now.
It wasn't really known, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure if I like looked for it, I could have found it, but I just was like, I don't know, people just want videos of my nails that I had on Instagram, which I was also not being paid for.
So like, I don't want to bias you, but
Okay, I think, yeah, I want to blend in with the crowd, but I realize that's...
Seems strange.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, I will be a success, or I am not too concerned about success.
It's hard to answer that. If you're here we go again. Answering this question will depend on where you feel like you are in your life. I can't, answer this and not pretend like I'm already successful. So
yeah, the I will be.
It's different, yeah.
We might have more success right now than we'll ever have in the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I will eventually not be successful. Whereas no, but just like it really does matter where you are in your respective life in answering this. So I feel like the I will be a success is not really how I feel because I have honestly already achieved whatever successes I could have possibly dreamed. And therefore, I am not concerned.
But aren't we both people driven to want to be successful in whatever we're doing, even if that's not judged by like sort of some monetary scale or other metrics?
Yeah, I was, regardless of my career, I was always looking for the next step.
Yeah. If we spend our old age fostering cats, I will want to be successful fostering cats, I will want to be good at fostering those cats, Cristine.
It really does matter the definition of success. But I don't know. I feel like I relate more to the I'm not that concerned because I will find a project that will make me happy and that I will do good at. Wait, is that I will be a success?
Kind of sounds like it.
Kind of sounds like it, yeah.
But you can
I'm an
go
overachiever no matter what I'm doing. So I guess I have to say I will be a success. One day, guys, I'll be a success.
Talk yourself out of that one. All right, next. I am no better or worse than most people. I think I am a special person.
How do they get social desirability in these types of questions? They need to counteract it with that to see whether or not you're just following the flow.
I think I am special, but it's not because I have a really high opinion of myself.
It's because you're with me.
As much as yeah, that's what makes it. I have a pretty pessimistic view of humanity in general. So it's not that I really elevate myself in my self-concept as much as I have a low opinion of a lot of other people, I think.
Interesting. I see what
Is that problematic thinking?
A little.
A little bit.
A little. I mean, honestly, I feel myself frustrated with people often, but I also think that's because of our position in society where we're going to have a lot of people who are, you did this wrong, you said this weird, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, because of your
like when you're famous on the internet, you're going to deal with a much larger volume of people who don't like you than you would just living your life as an average person.
You think that's given you a worse perspective on other people?
I think that has given me a worse perspective of people and all the things that go along with influencing and making money and seeing the behind the scenes of the people in these industries, that not influencers, brands, everyone behind it has absolutely given me a more pessimistic outlook on people and their motives.
Yeah. And I'm kind of rethinking this one too, though, just in the sense that, like, I don't mean it to imply like I don't have empathy for other people or just to think I'm better than other people. But like, don't you have to kind of go through life thinking of yourself as like special?
As
like
good enough. You're worth it.
You are kind of the protagonist of your own storyline.
Like L'Oreal.
L'Oreal?
Because I'm worth it. Their slogan? No?
Okay, sure, yeah.
I don't know what to put for this one. I mean, I think I identify more with I'm just treat me like an average lady.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not sure if I would make a good leader. I see myself as a good leader. I'm not so sure about that.
That's so not true. You're a good leader.
In what?
Because you know how to speak and converse and be concise, which I don't.
Yeah, that makes me a good speaker.
Yes, good speakers are good leaders. Sometimes, usually.
I don't know. I don't have.
It's like one of the principles of like.
It might be more that I just have no any desire to do that.
That's not the question, though. Answer the question.
It's a good question.
Answer the question, sir.
I don't want to, but I could be a good one. I don't know, Cristine.
Okay. I guess I have to put. I see myself as a good leader because, like, why would I say I'm not a good leader?
I don't know why. Next, am I assertive or I wish I were more assertive?
Depends on the day.
I'm assertive enough.
I've gone through periods of feeling like I wish I'd said something. There's absolutely so many examples, including speaking back to like men in corporate environments where I wish I was more assertive and I like regretted it immediately after and I recognized it. But there was always something kind of like that was hard for me because I'm kind of shy in real life. So I've always kind of felt like I could be more assertive. I think I've done better though in the past few years with like practicing with just saying this is what I want and it needs to be this way because X, Y, Z. So I think I've gotten better. Like taking this, something else that's interesting about any psychometric test that like I'm sure a psychologist would tell you too, is that you can change. This evolves over time. The way you're going to answer questions, the way you feel about yourself can change. So yeah. I wish I were more assertive is probably still a little bit true, even though I feel like I've improved.
Yeah. And I think the nuance there is also like, especially working on things where other people are involved and there's more opinions and like the importance as a leader of considering multiple points of view. Sometimes it's hard to draw the line between considering a multitude of opinions, but also just knowing when you're confident, when you just need to make the decision that you know is right for it.
Yeah, I definitely experience more doubt when there's more than one person saying something else than what I thought. And so I feel like I almost just want to go with what they're thinking because I'm also trying to be like, hey, I'm a team player. But then maybe later I'm like, I regret that. I should have just done what I thought was right. So I struggle with that.
All right, interesting follow-up. I like to have authority over people or I don't mind following orders.
I don't mind following orders. There's a part of me that like misses having a boss. Well, it's because my boss is amazing, like at Stackhand. So maybe that too. It helps to have a good boss, but
I know exactly what you mean. There's something really nice about
just being told what to do.
Yeah, that makes it sound worse than it is, though, I think.
That's not true because I don't feel like I was ever really, I mean, absolutely I was treated that way in early jobs, but in my more recent career, I was not treated like just do this and then, discarded. So I felt like I had a good relationship with my superiors. And in that good, positive relationship, I felt like it was nice to be able to be assigned a report and told like, all right, here's your deadlines, here's what you got to do. And then I go ahead and project manage my way through it.
I guess I think of it myself in the sort of the context of the sort of ecosystem of online business that you've created. I don't know if I would want to be how do I put this? I sort of like that you are the YouTuber and I play a secondary role.
But you're a streamer now. Bentendo. Shout out to Bentendo. Go subscribe to Bentendo on YouTube.
Okay.
Hummus Mondays. Casual Fridays.
That's very good. That's my new channel trailer. Anyway, moving on. I find it easy.
Wait, did we answer?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I find it easy to manipulate people, or I don't like it when I find myself manipulating people.
Again, this question is like, who would answer this, honestly? If you are actually a master manipulator, you're not going to admit to it.
I'm trying to be brutally honest with myself, but I don't like it when I...
Me neither. I hate it. I feel extremely uncomfortable. And I also feel like you can see when I'm uncomfortable because I'll...
Also, manipulating people to me, it assumes like a more negative intent than like... I enjoy debating whether we should do plan X or plan B and sort of discussing the merits of that and making a case for why I argue my way of things is better. But to me, that's not like manipulating a situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the word manipulate, it means like you're trying to pull one over on someone. Whereas like, yes, I am a salesperson, for example, for Holo Taco, but I don't think me talking about the new products that I just designed and love is manipulating you.
Yes.
Because I'm doing so with honesty and transparency and everything. But you're right. The definition of manipulating where I think that should mean something more negative with ill intent, where you're going to dupe someone as a result. That's manipulating.
All right. We are taking way too long to do
sorry.
this. So let's bang out a few.
Okay.
Let's get at some of your implicit biases here, Cristine. Next one. I insist upon getting the respect that is due to me. I usually get the respect I deserve. Usually get the respect you deserve?
Follow it the usual way.
I don't particularly like to show off my body. I like to show off my dad bod.
I will never show off my body.
Me,
well, not never, but
neither.
Like, not normally.
I can read people like a book. People are sometimes hard to understand.
People are aliens, or I'm an alien.
I think I could usually understand people. Yeah, you're an alien. If I feel competent, I'm willing to take responsibility for making decisions, or I like to take responsibility for making decisions.
If I feel
competent, right? That is...
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty obvious one. I just want to be reasonably happy. I want to amount to something in the eyes of the world.
I do not care what the world... I just want to be reasonably happy. Just let me chill.
I agree with you. My body is nothing special. I like to look at my body. Is my body special, Cristine? We'll answer for each.
You have to ask yourself. I'm not special.
My body is a temple. My body is nothing special. I try not to show off. I try not to be a show off, or I will usually show off if I get the chance.
I go to great lengths to not show off.
If I'm really good at something, I don't mind showing it off. And I prefer not to show people things I'm not good at. So I think,
you like
to be
show
honest,
off.
yeah.
You will usually show it. You picked the wrong one.
Oh, I will usually show off if I get the chance, yes.
Yeah, like guitar, Taylor Swift, video games. So good.
Like Donkey Kong. I didn't tell people I played Donkey Kong until I was like one of the best Donkey Kong players. But isn't that more of like a self-doubt about not wanting to show yourself being bad at things?
Yes.
That's the way I look at it anyway. All right. I always know what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't always know what I'm doing.
Neither do I, but I kind of want to say I always know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Because even though in the moment there's like certain ones where I'm like, I don't know. I think overall I have a good handle on what I'm doing.
Okay. I sometimes depend on people to get things done. I rarely depend on anyone else to get things done. I think we both have trouble accepting circumstances where we're depending on other people to get things done. And that's been a challenge.
I think we do a lot ourselves, including producing this podcast, which we're...
Sometimes I tell good stories. Everybody likes to hear my stories.
Sometimes I tell good stories. I do not tell stories well.
Does everybody like to hear
everybody likes to hear your stories. That's
I know
true.
you want me to answer. I don't know. They're
People
not
like
always
to hear
good.
your stories.
Who does? You?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're falling asleep. Cristine goes, tell me a story.
Tell me a story, see?
If everybody is Cristine, then they like to hear my stories. I expect a great deal from other people, or I like to do things for other people. I prefer to do things for other people than expect things from other people.
I wish there was a middle answer, because it's like I don't do either of those. I don't think I often like to do things for other people. I'm just
Clock is ticking.
Honest.
5.
But I also
4.
don't expect
3.
Okay.
2.
I like to do things for other people, even though like it's not totally.
I will never be satisfied until I get all that I deserve. I take my satisfactions as they come.
I want to roll my eyes at that question, so I need something to write so I don't roll my eyes. I'm going to scribble.
We take it as it comes.
Yeah.
Compliments embarrass me. I like to be complimented.
Embarrassing.
They do embarrass me.
Stop embarrassing me.
They embarrass me, but I like them.
See, the duality.
I get uncomfortable, but the duality of man. Okay.
Man? What about the rest of us?
Woman. I have a strong will to power. Power for its own sake doesn't interest me.
I'm not interested in power on its own. For the principle of power. To rule the world.
I don't even really know what this one means. I don't care about new fads and fashions, or I like to start new fads and fashions.
Literally do not care.
You start new fads and fashions.
Yeah, but that was dumb. Like that's not what this question is getting at. This is like, are you on trend with the latest Gucci? Or do you have the right color hair for this? Is that
how you're interpreting it?
Yes.
You
I
made
do not give a
sweatpants
shit.
cool. Okay, neither of us care. I like to look at myself in the mirror. I'm not particularly interested in looking at myself in the mirror.
I like to look at my nails a lot. Can I look at my nails?
Maybe you should answer that one positively then. You're often looking at footage of yourself. Don't you love that?
No, I want to die. Okay, no, I am not interested.
Okay,
honestly,
okay.
I'm less interested in looking at myself since recording myself. It's made me like hate me more. I mean, only watching the playback. Not necessarily looking in the mirror. Looking in the mirror is like, you got to pluck your eyebrow. Like, you got to put your hair up. You got to see where your earrings are going in the right hole. It's fine.
Editing yourself is a different experience, though, in that it's like, to edit a video well, you're like taking better cuts of sentence. There is an element of you criticizing your past self in terms of editing it into a product.
If they redid, I would love if there was a version of this for YouTubers or people who are like digital content creators, because there's so many good questions. Like, I like watching myself in playback. How would people answer that? Like, I fucking hate it. It's kind of like that question. You know how some actors, even Johnny Depp said this in the trial. Here's another loop back. He said he doesn't watch his own movies because he just doesn't like watching himself. And he didn't like elaborate too much on that because, you know, the lawyer would have objected. Objection relevance. But that's not the first actor I
do not recall.
I've heard say that. Who was that other actor? Was it Adam Driver? No.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
What movie?
I can't remember. But
I feel like a lot of
Star Wars guy, but he was in other things that are better than Star Wars.
Ben Solo?
I don't know.
Star Wars?
Ben?
The Star Wars?
Ben Solo?
Yeah. Harrison Ford's kid?
I don't know. Star Wars. Can't remember what you explained to me like 7 podcasts ago. But no. I've heard other actors talk about this, how they have this like aversion to hearing themselves or seeing themselves on screen. When they go into a character, they just go to perform it from, you know, their POV. They don't want to rewatch from the outside POV. And whenever I've heard them explain that, I relate so hard to that. Yeah.
That's probably not. There are people who show up to their premieres and watch their movies and enjoy that too, though, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the average person probably thinks about Johnny Depp, like they're all shocked it's a big TikTok that he doesn't watch his own movies. Like, that's so stupid. Why don't you care about your own movie?
Maybe he should pick better movies.
No, but that's not what it's necessarily about.
Well, no, honestly,
I
wonder if that is an element of it. Is it that he's uncomfortable watching himself, or he's like, I chose to make $25 million making Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think this movie is a steaming pile of shit, right?
You're right. I don't know the answer, but when I have heard some actors or actresses talk more seriously about that, it's usually like they have an aversion. It makes them uncomfortable to see themselves. And it kind of ruins it for them to move forward in their own acting development to see themselves. It's like they almost cringe or can't stand. Like, that's how I kind of feel watching myself.
Oh.
Increasingly. But it wasn't really like that in the beginning, which maybe it wasn't like that in the beginning for actors either. It's just over time. And they don't even have to edit themselves. I have to see myself way more often than any actor has to.
Terrible.
Anyways, what's the answer?
You're not particularly interested in looking at yourself in the mirror. Next one. I really like to be the center of attention. It makes me uncomfortable to be the center of attention.
It makes me uncomfy. Get me a sock, please.
I don't mind attention, so I'll just be different. I can live in my life in any way I want to. People can't always live their lives in terms of what they want.
Yo, people cannot always live their lives in the way they want. Yeah, sorry, I'm a pessimist.
Being an authority doesn't mean that much to me. People always seem to recognize my authority. People do recognize your authority
because they're like, yes, if a fan sends me something and says, I love you, you inspired me. That's, I guess, recognizing my influence. Not really authority. Maybe, yeah.
Authority can be interpreted a bunch of different ways.
Okay, I guess I have to say people recognize it because I'm interpreting it as like my influence.
Okay. I would prefer to be a leader, or it makes little difference to me whether or not I am a leader or not.
It makes little difference to me.
Same. I am going to be a great person. I hope I am going to be successful. Sounds very familiar.
They're like both similar though.
I would rather would you rather be successful or great?
So we're not a great person now. I am going to be a great guys. One day we're going to be great people.
I would rather be a great person than successful.
Yes, one day, Ben, we'll be great people.
One day, maybe. Not quite there yet. People sometimes believe what I tell them. I can make anybody believe anything I want them to.
People, wait, who tells people things and people never believe them? Like what? Who's the opposite of this? Yes, people sometimes believe what I tell them.
I am a born leader. Leadership is a quality that takes a long time to develop.
Leadership takes time to develop, personally, for me.
Yeah. I wish somebody would someday write my biography. I don't like people to pry into my life for any reason.
Yo, I'm the second one, which is, yes, contradiction.
I'm going to be a little narcissist in this one. The idea of having a life interesting enough that someone else would care to even notice it appeals to me on some level.
Do you want a Wikipedia page?
No, I'm okay. I get upset when people don't notice how I look when I go out in public. I don't mind blending into the crowd when I go out in public.
Yo, we never go out in public, so we can't be noticed.
I get upset when people don't notice how I look. Yeah, definitely not.
Well, that's like every celebrity on the red carpet would be upset if people didn't notice who they were wearing.
You've done a few red carpets. What's that experience like?
Like at the Streamies?
At the Streamy Awards?
Like, yes, guys, I've done so many red carpets. I've won Oscar de la Renta. No.
Remember, like, I had to pretend to be, like, your publicist that one time?
That was the only way they would let you come with
me. Because
you're
like, don't, like, you're like, please don't leave.
Please don't leave me.
So I had to, like, I had a sheet of paper with your name on it and just walked along with you.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That's my PR manager. I would love to blend in with the crowd when I go in public. I would just like not like to go out in public.
All right, and last two. I am more capable than other people, or there's a lot that I can learn from other people. I mean, I think both of these things are true.
Yeah.
But I think I have way more to learn. Man, what I said earlier, I feel like I should hold myself to it.
I think I have to agree with the first one too.
Okay.
Because I'd be lying. Like, obviously, I do a lot of things that are skills that most don't have. So how could I possibly say that I'm not?
Again, this is one of those ones where both are true.
Yeah.
And then last one, I am much like everybody else, or I am an extraordinary person.
I just hate that word.
Cristine, I don't know.
What does that mean? Extra?
Well, it just
what
means
does extraordinary mean?
Beyond ordinary.
Like better than normal? Or just beyond the grasp of normality? We need a dictionary.
You are beyond the grasp of normality. We're both going to answer that.
Okay. All right. You know what? Self-love. Right. We're confident. We're extraordinary people, Ben.
Put your bets in.
Okay. Who's a narcissist? Who's getting canceled?
Were your answers accurate and can they be used in our research? We took this.
Yeah. Support research.
Sure. Would you be willing to answer a few more questions?
No. No, we're running out of time here.
And winner is... Okay, my score is 16 out of 40.
Woo!
Higher scores indicate a greater levels of narcissism. Cristine's score is 11 out of 40. Okay, they've got us on a graph here. My score was higher than 66.7% of the sample. Cristine's score was higher than 45.4% of the sample. So Cristine is just below average narcissism. I am just a little bit above average.
You're more above than I am below.
So I guess they're referring to a few studies here. There's 3 of them. So like
what's the reference
university
category?
Undergraduates.
From 1988. That's the year we were born. I bet you if you just like measured narcissism over time, like a temporal study, it'd probably totally change. Right.
Actually, I do think that's even acknowledged. The scores on the MPI among university students have been increasing almost since it was first developed.
There you go. We're all getting more full of ourselves.
So yeah, in 88, the year we were born, it was 15.6. U.S. adults in 2009 were 15.3. U.S. celebrities study done in 2009 was 17.8.
So on average, 2.
It is very normal that celebrities are people with any sort of amount of fame. I think would naturally score higher.
But it's literally
here.
part of the job. Like on some level, it's hard to be a celebrity and not enjoy it. Not enjoy like being out in public, being seen, being the center of attention. Because if you really hate it so much, you might want to leave. I'm not saying like it's impossible to do both, but it's just more likely that you're.
I think it's part of the parasocial nature of having an audience as well. And I think we think about that and feel that as well. When you have, I mean, you get a lot of comments from people like, there's a lot of good and bad that comes with having internet fame. And both of those things can kind of fuck up your self-concept in different ways.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And if we just scroll down, in addition to the primary score, investigation into the structure of the MPI has found there are 7 different facets. So it sort of graphs your score along authority, self-sufficiency, superiority, exhibitionism, exploitativeness, vanity, and entitlement. We both scored like nothing for vanity and entitlement.
Because we never look in the mirror.
Cristine scored highest for self-sufficiency, which actually makes quite a bit of sense.
So those are the questions where I was like, I can do things myself.
And I scored a little bit high on superiority and exploitativeness.
Exhibitionism.
Exhibitionism. I was low on exploitation. Okay, good.
So that's probably you like saying you're good at Donkey Kong.
I'm okay with people noticing me, my Donkey Kong skills. I could play the bongos really well.
So we're probably looks like around the same on authority. But then my superiority and exhibitionism is
quite
maybe
low.
Half yours. But my self-sufficiency is much closer to the max.
Yeah.
I didn't know that being self-sufficient, or maybe it's just the perception of being self-sufficient, lends to narcissism.
Well, that's why it's even sort of gray and blurry that like the idea of like self-love being narcissism or just confidence.
No, but self-sufficiency suggests like I can take care of things on my own. Does that make me someone who is narcissistic because you're just like capable of being independent?
And where
it's interesting.
Yeah, and where is that line?
Yeah.
With that sort of attitude becoming problematic from a personality disorder perspective.
Yeah, like is it problematic to be
so we just did this test and I'm never going to think about these numbers again, frankly, right? I mean, I'm not surprised I come out like slightly on the high average side. I don't know what that says about me. I guess I'm just being honest. I'm not surprised you come out slightly on the low side.
And I wonder if that's just a function of worse self-confidence. Like really, this could also be interpreted as you're more confident than I am. And it's not about you being more narcissistic than I am.
But the weird thing is like you have way more reason to be
narcissistic,
confident and have self-esteem than I do.
Yeah, but and I really don't mean to be like pity me. I'm so not don't believe in myself. Like that's not
Some
true either.
Some people have a harder time than others. Yeah, self-esteem is an issue for a lot of people.
It's not that I'm not like confident in myself. It's just that I've never really been the type of person who's been after a superior fame. And that's the struggle for me. It's not that like I don't think I can do something, and like I don't really think that's what it is. So I don't want people to misinterpret this as like, oh, I have super low self-esteem. I don't think I have super low self-esteem. I think I'm like where it probably should be on average given my situation. And, you know, yeah, there's doubt instilled from the internet, but I'm also like, fine.
Yeah, and I want people to know, like, I'm not going through life thinking I'm better than other people.
You're a 16 out of 40. Being a 16.
It's more that I just have, I have a pretty pessimistic view of humanity in general.
Yeah, same. Death and Taxes.
It's a video game.
Also, how I feel about the world.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we should take this test when we're in a better mood.
In 10 years, when we're great people. When we're finally great
when
people,
I am a great person.
We'll take this test again.
When someone finally notices how I dress in public.
Yeah.
And I look at my body in the mirror. All right, I do not know how to end this episode.
I would love to know, if some of our listeners took this, what they scored, if they feel comfortable sharing. Again, this is just like for your own self-knowledge. If anything, I like taking these tests because I really find the questions interesting because they just make you reflect on why you do or think how you do. And that kind of reflexive, introspective activity is always something we can all learn from personally.
Sure.
You don't agree? You just hate answering questions
so much.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back to watching the Depp v. Heard trial while I do some swatches and stuff. What are you going to do for the rest of the day?
You're going to use some nail, what are they called? The things you use on your nails to do nail art?
Tools? Yeah. Maybe I will use
All right, everybody.
tools.
Thank you so much for tuning in this Taco Tuesday.
I hope you guys have a narcissistic Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, I hope you love yourself this Taco Tuesday.
Not too much, though.
A little bit too much.
Not a 40 out of 40.
I hope you have like an 18 out of 40 kind of day.
Yeah, an 18 out of 40 day. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Better than an 11, for sure, is what I wish for you. All right, everyone.
Thanks so much for watching.
We'll see y'all later. Bye.